Progress Wrestling, Chapter 54. The last stop before Alexandra Palace, the biggest show Progress has done to date. And will they lead into it with a bang? Not really. Kind of feels like I'm watching Raw at some points in this. Well, like with randomly some of the best matches you'll ever see. Like, I don't know, Matt Riddle versus Walter. And more importantly, we get really in depth on what it's like to get kicked in the balls by Pete Dunne. And we're going to get firsthand insight on what that was like by the man who took the foot to the genitals. Genitals? Genitals. Is it genital? No, it's genitals. Let's throw another T in there. Speaking of tea, let's spill the tea right here on the Apron Bump Podcast.
Yeah. And the hardest, talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock this. Let's get started.
What's up, everybody? What the heck is up, everybody? Welcome to the Apron Bump Podcast. I'm your host, the hardest part of the ring, Kyle. Glad to have you here. Full transparency, I'm recording this before WrestleMania 42. It'll be dropping after. I'm not sure if I'm going to release this like the Wednesday after. Maybe we'll take a week off. I don't know. But regardless, I'm sure you need to seek shelter. Everybody's talking about WrestleMania and what happened, how Jelly Roll walked out as world champion, how Stephen A. Smith brought back the European Championship and defended against Shaquille O'Neal. I know all of this stuff happened that you want me to talk about, but that's not what this is. This is the WWE sanctuary. Hop in, everybody. They can't hurt you in here. Everybody else is talking about it. Come in here if you want to talk about something else. That's right. We're going to be talking about how WWE has infiltrated Progress. Weird period for Progress Wrestling. Of course, August of 2017. We're not quite at peak, like, WWE-ified Progress, I don't think. I mean, there still is a lot of the charm that they have. But, you know, in case you haven't been following along, which, by the way, if you haven't, link in the description. That'll bring you to all of the chronological Progress shows that I've covered, started from Chapter 1. Every single chapter I've covered up until this point, Chapter 54. So binge away if you want to get caught up to speed. I mean, especially the early days of Progress, some of the most fun wrestling you'll ever watch or hear about in the case of the podcast. So go check it out if you have not already. But yeah, so basically what's going to happen here, we're going to touch on the New York and Boston shows that Progress did in between Chapter 53 and 54. And then we are going to transition to Chapter 54 with my guest, Callum Leslie, the commentator on that very show. He was a longtime commentator for Progress during its heyday. And once he left, it went to shit. So just kidding, I think. I don't know. But I've had him on before. It's always a lovely time with my boy Callum. So stay tuned for that. But before that, I think we're going to do maybe like kind of a speed run of the New York and Boston shows. There wasn't honestly a ton of noteworthy stuff happening. There were a few things that we definitely need to talk about. And some things that do kind of feed into the Alexandra Palace show that'll be happening at Chapter 55, which is, again, the biggest show that Progress has done to date, well, to this date in the timeline we're in. They have done bigger shows after that, but you know what I mean. But really kind of the sweeping thing that I got after watching these three shows, Progress New York, Progress Boston, Progress Chapter 54. The main thing, you know, obviously it's building to the big show at Chapter 55, but it's definitely like, is Progress at this point stretching themselves too thin? Because, you know, if you just look at Chapter 54, it's a bit of a lean show, but there is some of that meat on the New York show, on the Boston show. I'm wondering, like, are they just like the individual shows, are they suffering because of this? They also had to deal with a lot of injuries and other logistical kind of nightmares, which we'll talk about. But I don't know. Is it maybe, are they stretching themselves too thin, or maybe are they becoming too big for their britches at this point, perhaps? Because at this point, that was a very striking thing when I turned on that New York show, which chronologically was the first one that happened that we're going to talk about today. The New York show, it opens up. It's the Elm Core Center in New York City. They have like the fucking basketball hoops up, and it's very reminiscent of like old school Ring of Honor, honestly. But that being said, there's like 1,500 people in there. It's packed, overpacked. Allegedly, based on my research, apparently they oversold it a little bit. Maybe a little too many people in there. But that's a testament to how big Progress and also just British wrestling in general was here in the summer of 2017. Because oftentimes, you know, I love watching these shows. I love talking about them, but I do understand a lot of it's like very kind of niche. You know what I mean? It's like, it kind of almost feels random, like Progress Wrestling. Why are you talking about that? This British promotion? You're talking about what they were doing, you know, 9-8 years ago, whatever it is. But then I turn on the New York show, and it's immediately brings me back to why I do these reviews, is because British wrestling and in this time period, dude, was like about as fun of a wrestling scene as there ever has been. Because, you know, remember in this timeline, 2017 WWE, I think Jinder Mahal's champion right now. Raw's the shits. NXT might be all right. I forget where they are in this time period. I think NXT is pretty good, but obviously this is pre AEW. TNA is not doing anything noteworthy. Japan's pretty good at this point. Actually, it's probably peak Japan, honestly. But between Japan and Europe, they're kind of carrying the wrestling world on their back in terms of quality. And you hear how, because their Progress is coming to America, and sometimes you might wonder, like, is it going to translate? Like, are the fans here in America in tune with what Progress is doing? And immediately, it's so clear that they are. It's so clear that what Progress is doing is transcending that electric ballroom in London. Like, they're transcending those rooms they're doing over there in the UK. It's a worldwide phenomenon. And you can see, based on the fact of the stars that are involved. Gunther's here. You got Tony Storm. There's, you know, if we're going into the past, guys like Will Ospreay and Finn Balor, like all these stars of today. Not all of the stars of today, but a lot of them came through Progress, and that was illustrated by how just energetic and loud the crowd was for this New York show, particularly. Probably the best show of the three that we're going to talk about today. It was just really, really striking to me how visually and audioly it's so clear that this promotion is transcending the continent of Europe, and it's just a worldwide phenomenon. And it's reminding me why it's such a fun period to talk about here. And I mean, British wrestling, it was feeding into Ring of Honor. It's a PWG. NXT UK obviously would be created eventually. We already got the WWE UK title established at this point. They're not really doing anything with it, but it's there. It's there. Yeah, I feel like I'm in the process of watching Progress become mainstream. Now, the question is that a good thing? Well, with hindsight, maybe not. I don't know. That's a whole discussion for a whole other day, but I feel like we're in this boom still. I feel like we're still in the mushroom cloud that is the explosion of British wrestling, and at some point it'll taper off, and I can maybe see that horizon coming, but it's a weird period to watch in real time, knowing what happens. But it's also a fun period. So all of that to say, again, I know I said we're going to speed run this, but and then I just yap. But we are going to kind of just go through these Boston and New York shows quickly to get into chapter 54, the penultimate show, or no, just the ultimate show, right? Before Alexandra Palace. So New York opens up. I brought out how it was so hype, so loud. Jim Smallman, the owner / announcer, is in the middle of the ring, clearly very overwhelmed. Just a really cool, genuine moment of him just soaking it in. Pete Dunne comes out. Pete Dunne was scheduled to defend his title against Jack Gallagher on this show, but he suffered a pretty gruesome gash over his left eye early. I don't know if it was earlier in the day or a day before. It was very recently. So he has a ton of stitches over his left eye, so he's not cleared to compete, but he comes out here and shits on the crowd. You know, stupid Americans, et cetera, et cetera. You know the deal. Jack Gallagher comes out basically because he's been involved on 205 Live, which is the time period where 205 Live was showcased on Raw every week, which was a huge deal. So Jack Gallagher has been a Raw WWE superstar, and Pete's out here. He has the UK title. He has the Progress title. He's talking shit. He says, I own everything. Jack Gallagher is like, oh, you own this? You own New York? You own Progress? You own WWE? Well, if you own WWE, why weren't you at the TV taping last week? So kind of some shit talking back and forth. I do like that. Bled into a match between Jack Gallagher and Zach Gibson, which was the opener, a super, super hot opener. The crowd was so into both of these guys. I think in a way, this might sound derogatory, but I feel like two like caricatures of British wrestlers. You know what I mean? Like Jack Gallagher with the goofy boots and the shiny tights, the silly mustache. Like he's the most cartoonishly British person that exists. And then you got Zach Gibson, who is just kind of a different flavor of British. And again, I was talking about how American fans are in tune with Progress and what they're doing. Like they're all in on the shtick of Zach Gibson. When he cuts the promo before the match, they just rain boos on him. And then they do the shh, everybody becomes quiet, and then he starts talking, and there's boo. So great shit there. The energy was awesome right out the gate. Jack ends up winning with the running drop kick in the corner and gets the 1-2-3. So Jack Gallagher gets the win in a fun opener. The next match is a tag team women's match. The team of Dahlia Black and Dakota Kai versus the team of Ginny and Deonna Purazzo. So we got the debuts of Dakota Kai and Deonna Purazzo here in Progress. I think Dakota Kai at this point is actually signed with WWE. Deonna actually might be as well, or she's about to be. But fun little match here, actually. It exceeded my expectations. I think mainly because when I see Dakota Kai, like Dakota's great. Like to this day, she's good. But man, 2017, dude, like this is pre all the injuries she's gone through and just the WWE watering down of your style that tends to happen. Like Dakota Kai was so explosive here. Her kicks, the way she was moving. I always thought there was such money in Dakota Kai as a babyface in WWE. I think I heard the stuff her and Shayna Baszler did in NXT, dude. I don't know, it just never translated to the main roster, unfortunately, at least in my opinion. But it was cool to see a young Dakota Kai here teaming with Dahlia Black, who just recently returned with TK Cooper. And they're taking on the team of Ginny and Deonna Purazzo, which Deonna just feels tailor-made for Progress. Just that technical, chain wrestling kind of style just feels like a natural fit for the company. I hope we see her more often in these next chapters. But again, just a really fun match here. Ultimately, a couple brutal face washes from Dakota Kai to Deonna, but she goes for a third one. Deonna ducks. Dakota gets her foot caught up in the top rope, and Deonna catches her with a hanging neck breaker, a high angle neck breaker, dumped her right on her head for the 1-2-3. So Deonna and Ginny get the win in that match. After that, we got an Atlas title #1 contendership match. So the 205 pounds and up title. We are going to find the #1 contender here. And boy, howdy, was this a jump scare. The next match is about to happen, and I hear whose voice? Stokely Hathaway. Things that I was not expecting when I turned on a Progress show was Stokely Hathaway and his big bald head. By the way, I should mention, and we'll talk about this with Callum here when we talk about Chapter 54, but apparently it was unconscionably hot in this arena. I think it was like above 100 degrees. in this building. I think the AC wasn't really working well, and or they were just oversold, so the AC couldn't work to its capacity. But everybody that was wrestling was just dripping in sweat. I think a few fans ringside passed out at some point. So it was tough. It was a tough to be there. I'm sure it was very tough, but visually it made for some fun stuff later down the road. But I mentioned this because, man, you think Stokely is bald? Try watching him with a sweaty head. This dude's coming out in a suit. That is the shiniest fucking head I've ever seen in my life. Stokely comes out here because he is managing the current Evolve champion, Timothy Thatcher, who at this point apparently had been Evolve champion for 596 days and counting. My goodness. It makes a lot of sense that he's now the Evolve general manager. So I guess he was, top guy there in its history. So it makes a lot of sense. But yes, it's going to be Timothy Thatcher versus Donovan Dijak popping up here in progress. Pretty fun match here. Kind of a weird clash of styles. You have the very grounded Timothy Thatcher and the very, I don't know what you call Dijak's style. I guess explosive. He kind of has like a goofy way of moving, you know what I mean? But he did look impressive here. He had a really clean moonsault at some point. Of course, he's throwing out all of his kicks and shit. Some really fun counters between these two. Like Dijak will go for his feast your eyes, but then Thatcher will catch him in like a leg lock or an armbar of some sort. But ultimately, Dijak goes for the spiral tap off the top rope, this big bastard. But Stokely gets up there to distract him. Dijak recovers eventually, hits it, but due to the delay of the distraction, Thatcher is able to get out of the way and pounces on him with a Fujiwara armbar for the tap out. So Thatcher wins and is now the number one contender for the Atlas champion to face off against who's going to be the champion. We'll find out later in this show. Stay tuned, folks. After that, we have a no disqualification match between Jimmy Havoc and Joey Janela, which I see this and I am immediately prepared to hate this match. Dude, I am rolling my eyes. All this fucking Joey Janela, he's just not my cup of tea. I'll just say that. He seems like a pretty cool dude, but as a wrestler, he just doesn't fit my palate. I don't know what to tell you. However, that being said, this match ended up getting me. This actually ended up being a very fun match. It was very spot heavy, obviously, but there was some again, I was walking into this being like, oh, this is gonna fucking suck. And then at some point, Havoc does a monkey flip onto Joey Janela while Joey is holding a chair. Somehow, Joey lands this monkey flip seated into the chair. Like he does a front flip, chair opens up, Joey lands on it, clean as hell. At this point, I'm like, all right, I'm going to give it a chance. That was pretty sick. And then Jimmy Havoc proceeds to hit Joey with an Essex Destroyer, which for those unfamiliar, it is a Canadian destroyer, but instead of a pile driver, it's a DDT. Havoc sets up a table of chairs. So 6 chairs all set up to form like a steel table. Jimmy Havoc does an Essex Destroyer off the top rope onto the steel chairs. Are ya nuts, dude? Holy fuck. Gnarly bump. We got Janela hitting a Death Valley driver off the apron through a table. Cinder blocks get brought into the equation. Like Joey brings out 6 cinder blocks. He puts 2 of them on Jimmy Havoc's head, assumingly going to crush his head off the top rope or something. But Jimmy ends up pressing him off the top rope onto the cinder blocks. And this fucking bump that Joey takes onto this bed of cinder blocks, these aren't the styrofoam crumbly cinder blocks that you'll see on WWE or whatever. They were stiff. They did not budge. Another gnarly bump, dude. And maybe the worst of them all led to the finish. Jimmy Havoc takes off Joey's boots. Jimmy Havoc pulls out a bag of thumbtacks, dumps them in the ring, gives a barefooted Joey Janela an atomic drop feet first into the thumbtacks. I see a lot of things in wrestling. I could even say I'm desensitized to a lot of things. Skewers in the head, whatever. Light tubes, sure. Ladders, tables, whatever. Watching a man with bare feet go feet, even though, as I'm saying it now, bare feet into thumbtacks. Buddy, not enough money in the world to get me to do that. Jiminy crickets, dude. And then Havoc follows it up with a Rainmaker and gets the win. So ultimately, a very fun match. A very fun match. It was definitely like a sideshow novelty type of thing, but I had fun watching it. It was, they laid it all out there. That's for sure. But then after that, we got a 4-way match. Mark Haskins versus Mark Andrews versus Keith Lee versus Austin Theory. Another dude I was not expecting to see. I guess there was a lot of Evolve tie-in here with Progress. I'm pretty sure Theory was a big deal in Evolve. But my goodness, dude, a 20 years old Austin Theory coming out here. Did you know that Austin Theory used to have long hair? News to me, and made me pretty uncomfortable, dude. It was just so wet. It was so slicked back. He looked like Loki from Thor. Like, it was just, he had the hairline isn't good. I don't know if he's gotten work since then or if he just hides it better with his buzz cuts or whatever the hell. Terrible hairline with the long slick back black hair. It is just very uncomfortable. Clean shaven too. Like, this is not my Austin Theory, but that being said, he looked good here. Obviously very new to the game. I mean, I can't imagine he's been wrestling more than a couple of years at this point. He's 20 years old. So him, Keith Lee, Mark Andrews, Mark Haskins. I mean, this was just it was a fucking, you know what this is, dude. It's tandem moves. It's multi-way submissions. It's dives to the outside. I do like the role Keith Lee played in this as like the centerpiece almost. He's this big hulking monster, like by far the biggest guy in the match. So all three guys are trying to team up to take him out, but then he explodes and takes them all out, like in the beginning of the match. Keith, at this point, he does this deal where he beels his opponent across the ring, walks over, and then double chop to the chest. He does this individually to all his three opponents. Like, he just felt like a monster in this match. Crazy finishing sequence here to this. I mean, again, there's just too many to take notes on. It was a very fun, it was a spot fest, I guess you could say. It was a scrambly type of match, but it was fun. Haskins gives Keith Lee a Canadian destroyer. Theory rolls in there with his classic rolling drop kick through the second rope. And then Theory goes for a rack bomb onto Haskins, but Haskins spins out of it and floats right into a sharpshooter for the tap out. So Mark Haskins comes out the winner here, and he's going to be facing Jimmy Havoc at Alexandra Palace. But more on that later, folks. After that, we have a bit of an unfortunate series of events here. So the next match is scheduled to be for the Progress Tag Team Championships. We got your champions, Mustache Mountain, aka British Strong Style, the team of Trent Seven and Tyler Bates, taking on the team of TK Cooper and Travis Banks, the South Pacific Power Trip. So TK Cooper recently returned a few chapters ago to, and I talked about this, maybe the biggest pop I've ever heard in Progress history. Like, crazy emotional return. He's red hot. We're ready to see TK Cooper. Where does he fit in Alexandra Palace? And beyond that, we don't know. And this match gets underway. Hot start as usual. Everybody's brawling in the ring, out of the ring. And at some point, everybody's taking turns doing their dives. You know, we got suicide dives, planchas, what have you. And everybody's on the outside except TK Cooper, who's at the top rope. TK with a spiral tap onto this pile of bodies, snaps his ankle. Dude. Suffers a dislocated ankle from this spiral tap. And the way that it comes off on screen, he hits this move. It's kind of like a wide shot. Like you can't really see how he lands or anything like that. But he hits this move and then it like fades to black. And then it comes back and the crowd is all of a sudden very quiet. They're carrying TK out to the back. And we don't really know what the injury is as we're watching this, but he's not cleared to finish this match. So basically they have to shuffle and figure this whole thing out. And basically Travis Banks gets on the mic and he's like, okay, this was about the tag team titles, but now it's about family. And I want to take on British Strong Style by myself. And Jim Smallman obliges. So now we got a 1-on-2 handicap match. Travis Banks versus British Strong Style. And look, it's a handicap match. It's a last minute change. They're kind of playing it on the fly here. And that being said, it was fine for what it was. Obviously, BSS beats on Travis for a little bit, but ultimately, Travis Banks fires up, makes his comeback, hits Tyler Bate with a Kiwi Crusher, has him beat. But Pete Dunne, the third member of British Strong Style and the guy that's going to be defending his title against Travis Banks at Alexandra Palace, Pete Dunne comes out, pulls the ref, breaks it up. The ref tells Pete to hit the bricks. He ejects Pete Dunne. But while this is all going on, Trent Seven in the ring hits Travis with a low blow and then a pedigree. Tyler Bate makes the pin. 1 kick out. They've been doing kick out at ones for quite some time now, apparently. And speaking of things I'm desensitized on, gee whiz, buddy. But Travis fires up out of this kick out at 1, takes both guys out. British Strong Style, they have a bit of a miscommunication. They accidentally hit each other, and Travis is able to take advantage with a slice of heaven to Trent Seven for the 1-2-3. So Travis Banks gets the win individually over the tag team champions. I don't know if I agree with that, especially with the context of the story leading up to Ali Pally. So basically the story between Travis and Pete is, Travis won the Super Strong Style 16 tournament back a few months ago, and he earned that title shot against Pete Dunne. But the time in between that and Ali Pally, they've each taken turns picking the opponents for each other. And Pete will pick guys. He's picked like Keith Lee. He's picked Haskins. Some other guys, maybe a Jeff Cobb in there. I don't exactly remember, but Pete's been picking Travis's opponents, and Travis will have a match with that guy, and Travis will have them beat, but then Pete Dunne interferes and costs Travis the match. That's been the story. Like Travis has had these people beat, but Pete Dunne keeps interfering. So Travis has kind of been on a losing streak here until now. So I guess he just gets this random win over the tag team champions, and not to put the cart in front of the horse, but Boston, Travis loses another singles match. So why is this random win here? I don't. Maybe I'm nitpicking too much. Maybe it was supposed to be a different match entirely. So maybe I'm not giving him enough credit. But I wasn't a big fan of Travis beating the tag team champions by himself, personally. Crazy, I know, but that leads us to the main event of the New York show, which is probably my match of the month. Not probably, definitely. What am I talking about? Definitely my match of the month here. It is for the Progress Atlas Championship. Walter defending the title against Matt Riddle. Daddy. So Walter just recently won the title from Matt Riddle. Was it last chapter or 2 chapters ago? I don't remember. But these guys have had a series of matches already. I believe this is their 3rd match they've had in progress alone. And I was kind of under the assumption that when Walter beat Riddle for the title, I thought Riddle was done with progress. I was like, okay, he's dropping the title and he's off to, I don't know if he's in NXT yet, but he's about to be soon. So I was like, all right, I guess he's done. See you later, Matt. But he's back here to get a rematch, I guess, for the Atlas title against Walter. By the way, Walter comes out and his chest is already all fucked up. It's all bruised and cut up. Like, what the hell happened? But apparently there was a WWN show earlier this day. And he was in a 4-way match. It was Walter versus Matt Riddle versus Tracy Williams versus Keith Lee. That match happened a few hours before this. And now he's walking into this. Now him and Riddle are about to beat the shit out of each other again. I mean, in like 100-degree heat. Different human beings. Different species of just... It's just wild stuff. And look, man, we've touched on a couple Walter Matt Riddle matches here on the podcast. And I think I've tried to articulate why I love these matches so much. And I think what it all comes down to is that Walter and Matt Riddle, whenever these guys fight each other, it's just always a little bit offbeat. You know what I mean? Because as wrestling fans, especially if you consume a lot of it, like I do, probably too much. If you're watching different promotions, or even if you're just watching like one promotion a lot, like you kind of get accustomed to certain rhythms and patterns of like what a wrestling match is. You got the hot start, you got some chain wrestling, you got a dive to the outside, heel gets their heat, babyface makes their comeback, maybe you get a cutoff, and then you trade finishers, and then it's the finish. It's become very template nowadays. Even back here in 2017, there was a lot of that going on. But as a viewer, you kind of innately have this like knowledge of just the general like feeling and the rhythm of a wrestling match. Matt Riddle and Walter, throw that out the window. And I think that's why these matches are so engaging. They just feel so different. They feel organic. They're stiff as hell, obviously, but there's so much like emotion in what they're doing. There's so much desperation. There's urgency. I feel like they're in a fight. I feel like they're competing against each other. I feel like they want to win the match. These all feel like standard cable, like every wrestling match should have these things. But man, as time goes on, it becomes more of a diamond in the rough. It becomes more of a hot commodity as time goes on. But these guys have that shit in spades, dude. This was, again, just so combustible, so explosive. These guys could face each other a million times and no match would be the same. Like it was so good. And a lot of their stuff they do is like relatively not simple because it takes talent and skill, obviously, but there's nothing like super contrived about what they're doing. This big bitch Walter's just throwing lariats and big boots, chokes, some power bombs, nothing crazy. And you got Matt Riddle, who is a little bit more nuanced and complex in what he does, the MMA background with all the roundhouse kicks and the submissions and the transitions into moves. He gets a little more squirrely with it, but ultimately it's pretty much just, it's a lot of meat slapping at the end of the day. But it was so good, dude. Like, and by the way, this is like, it's probably old news at this point, but that Will Ospreay spot from Dynasty 2026, that spot where Moxley gave Ospreay the paradigm shift and Ospreay pops up and hits the hidden blade. My take, I don't have an issue with it. That type of thing can work because it comes down to the follow through. Because this will tie into this match, I promise. Ospreay took this DDT, pops up out of it by the impact, hits his hidden blade, and then passes out. That shows that it was an adrenaline dump. That shows that it was a desperate, just kind of last ditch effort to preserve himself in this match. It was him emptying the tank. Nothing wrong with that. But you go to a match like Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano, and these guys are no selling things, and then just going into more tie-ins and grapples and combinations as if the move 3 seconds ago didn't affect them at all. That shit sucks, right? The Ospreay spot was fine, and you see a similar spot here in this match where Riddle hits the bro to sleep and then doesn't knock Walter down. Walter's just kind of reeling because he's this big, big, bad bastard. Walter's reeling on his feet. Riddle hits the ropes. Walter with a lariat, knocking Riddle out of his dick, dude. And I like how, because Walter didn't no-sell the bro to sleep. He got hit with it, knew he was in trouble, so had to empty the tank and pull out one big bomb to stop Riddle from capitalizing and winning the match. That type of psychology works when done right, and I feel like it was done right here. And I've said it before, I got to reiterate, incredibly hot in that arena. The sweat is insane, dude. There's a chop exchange like pretty late in the match where both guys are just dripping wet, chopping the shit out of each other. And every time they chop, it's just a ocean of sweat spewing into the air. Visually just beautiful and intense. Amazing stuff. And then I like the psychology here because Walter's the bigger, stronger guy. So he's getting the advantage on the chop battle. So Riddle transitions from chopping to kicking, to roundhouse kicking. So bringing in his strengths to neutralize the strength of Walter. And these are all just like basic things, but it's just executed so well. So well. The psychology's there. The physicality's there. Everything's there, dude. They're trading submissions. Riddle goes for a flying arm bar, but Walter counters that. He lifts him up out of this arm bar into 2 power bombs, more chops, more stomps. Riddle hits another bro to sleep, follows it up with a couple of knees to the face, a BTE trigger, Kamagoye, whatever you want to call it, big pump knee strike. Goes for another knee strike, but Walter counters into a choke. Again, just like a last ditch, like Walter's had all this offense put on him. He's reeling. He just desperately grabs that choke. But then Riddle fights out of it, locks in the bro mission, and Walter taps out. What? Again, I thought Matt Riddle was done with progress, and now he's the Atlas champion again. Walter just won the goddamn title. What the hell are we doing? Well, it was unexpected. Another unexpected win here. But it's all gonna come to a head at Alexandra Palace. Not to get ahead of ourselves here, but it was a very shocking finish here. I thought Walter was gonna hold on to this title forever. Maybe he gets it back. Or does he just move on to the world title? Don't know. But yeah, just again, I gushed on that match a lot, but it was genuinely like far and away the best wrestling match of the month. And I mean, a contender for match of 2017, as far as I'm concerned. Just awesome stuff. I walked into it like, oh, Walter and Riddle again. All right, I guess. Like their other matches have been good, but like, what are they going to show me that I haven't already seen? And they proceeded to just blow my asshole away. So that was the main event of New York City Progress. Now we move on to Progress Boston, which was a bit of a shorter show for a variety of reasons. Mark Andrews versus Jeff Cobb. Not a lot to say there. Just a fun match. Big hulking dude versus guy that flies. Made for some fun counter wrestling. Both guys are doing shooting star presses. This is a fun little opener. Ultimately, Jeff Cobb goes for the tour of the islands. Mark Andrews counters that into a stun dog millionaire, goes for a running Hurricane Rana, but Jeff Cobb pops him up, catches him. Tour of the Islands gets the win. Jeff Cobb gets the win and continues to have a super, super strong 2017. Watching early Jeff Cobb, it's fun to watch. It also is a bit depressing knowing where JC Mateo is here. Then we have a triple threat match. So it's pretty much the same ladies involved in the tag match at the last show, minus Dahlia Black. We got Dakota Kai versus Deonna Purazzo versus Jenny. Fun stuff here. Deonna Purazzo hits a German suplex onto Jenny with a bridge, but Dakota Kai off the top rope with a double stomp to Deonna to not only break up the pin, but make the pin herself and gets the 1-2-3 over Deonna Purazzo. Again, I hope we see more of Deonna and Dakota in progress. I think they both fit the company like a glove. And really good stuff here. Really good stuff here. Then we got a match between, I kind of briefly touched on this earlier. We got Jack Gallagher versus Travis Banks. Another fun match here. I always forget how Jack has this like bare knuckle boxer / MMA background behind him. I always think of him as like the silly British grappler. But him and Travis has like all of the kicks and knees and forearms and shit, and Jack was giving it right to him. So it was a delightfully surprising, hard hitting match here. So I love the intensity throughout this whole thing. Travis hits a running lariat and then hits the Kiwi Crusher for a 2 count. And this whole match, by the way, I'm expecting Pete Dunne to interfere and cost Travis the match because that's been the pattern. However, that does not happen. Travis goes for the slice of heaven, but Jack Gallagher counters with a headbutt out of midair. And then he hits Travis with his running drop kick in the corner for the 1-2-3. Clean. Reminder, Travis Banks is challenging for the Progress title at Ali Pally, and he takes a clean loss here to Jack Gallagher. Also following up Travis beating British Strong Style 1-on-2. A lot of this logic doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, but they kind of try to kind of tie that loop after the match because Jack gets on the mic. He puts over Travis, says, I've known you since our days in the dojo. I know that you're a world-traveled wrestler, and I just don't think your head's in the game. So they're kind of alluding to the fact that, TK Cooper was injured at the previous show, and maybe that has caused Travis to be distracted, to maybe not be mentally focused, and maybe that led to his downfall here. So I guess that's the story. But Jack continues. He's like, I need that guy that took out British Strong Style on his own. I need that guy to face Pete Dunne at Alexandra Palace. Because this is progress, as he points to Travis. So they kind of tried to make sense of it at the end, but ultimately I think there could have been a better way to go about it. And I'm watching this, I'm like, well, maybe they did it this way because Pete Dunne's not there. Well, Pete Dunne storms the ring after this promo and takes out both Jack Gallagher and Travis Banks, both with pedigrees. He beats Travis with his loafer. I don't know, man, but trying to build more heat to that main event angle. We'll have a lot more to say about it at Chapter 54. After that, we got Martin Stone versus Matt Riddle, which is a good match, but after watching Riddle and Walter, this definitely felt like a bit of a step down. I do love Martin Stone. By the way, Danny Burch, for those unfamiliar, is Martin Stone. I thought Martin Stone had a pretty good run, like in the early NXT UK days. I remember him and Pete Dunne having an awesome match. And of course, I loved his team with Oney Lorcan. So really fun stuff. I mean, fun grapples, fun striking, good stuff all around. Matt Riddle locks in the bro mission on the Martin Stone, but Martin tries to counter by grabbing his dick, which is valid. Makes a lot of sense. If you're in a submission, just grab the guy's wiener. But Matt Riddle fights through the arousal and gets Martin Stone to tap out. So Matt Riddle gets the win. The new Atlas champion, Matt Riddle, gets the win. This was all non-title match, but it doesn't really matter. So Riddle gets the win, and gets on the mic after and says, Walter, the only reason I'm the Atlas champion was because you offered me a rematch. So I'm going to return the favor and offer you a rematch. Now remember, Timothy Thatcher won the number one contendership at the last show. Timothy Thatcher is also in the same stable as Walter, Ringkampf. So how is that going to materialize? What's going to happen there? Well, we'll touch on that in a second. After that match, we got Jimmy Havoc versus Zach Gibson, which feels like should be a bigger deal. Feels like this should have been a bigger... This ended up just being an okay match. Again, comparing to the New York show, after watching Jimmy Havoc and Joey Janela brutalize each other, this felt kind of lukewarm to me. This even ended up becoming a no disqualification match, but it was just like a couple of chairs, whatever. Again, after watching Thumbtacks and Cinder Blocks and whatever the hell is, this felt very watered down. Ended up being pretty okay. Havoc ends up winning with the Acid Rainmaker. And then he just kind of storms out, which I thought was pretty weird. He didn't celebrate at all. He kind of just got the win and just went to the back. I don't know if he was pissed about something. I don't know if he didn't like how the match went or what the deal was. But Havoc gets the win. So him and Haskins getting a couple of wins here leading to their match at Alley Pally. So, but again, chapter 54, we'll touch on that a little bit more. But that brings us to the main event of the Boston show. The Progress Tag Team titles on the line. We got the champions, British Strong Style, the team of Trent Seven and Tyler Bate, versus Ringkampf, team of Timothy Thatcher and Walter, who I just brought up. So now they're competing. They are both, in a way, number one contenders for the Atlas title, but also fighting for the tag team titles here. I enjoyed this match. I will say maybe I expected a little bit more out of this matchup. I mean, Trent Seven, Tyler Bate versus Walter and Tim Thatcher. Particularly the fact that Walter and Tyler Bate are in this match, dude. Like, some of my favorite matches ever have been those guys wrestling each other. And I do like... My highlight of this match was the dynamic between Tyler and Walter, because typically in that matchup, Walter's the big, bad, brooding heel, and Tyler's like the plucky underdog that everybody's trying to get behind. But that dynamic was flipped here. So you have Tyler as the chicken shit heel and Walter, the guy that everybody wants to get his hands on Tyler. So I like that kind of dynamic being flipped on its head a little bit. Made for some fun sequences here. And I loved the role that Timothy Thatcher played in this match, because look, as a Trent Seven, Tyler Bate, Walter, you know, it's just going to be a lot of just bombs being thrown at each other. But Tim Thatch was in there to kind of tie everything together, to slow it down when it needed to be slowed down, to kind of create some cohesion in this match, and ended up being pretty good. Walter hits a huge boot to Tyler Bate, goes for a lariat, but Tyler backflips to counter it and then hits a standing shooting star press to Walter. And then Tyler Bate hits a deadlift German suplex to Walter. I can't stress how fucking impressive that is. The size discrepancy between the two, just outstanding stuff. At the end of this match here, Thatcher has Tyler in an armbar, but behind them, unbeknownst to Thatcher, Trent Seven is in a chokehold. Walter has Trent Seven in a chokehold, but Seven does the old Bret Hart counter, walks up the corner pads, flips backwards, has Walter's shoulders pinned to the mat while in the choke, and gets the cheeky 1, 2, 3 out of nowhere. So British Strong Style retains the tag team titles, as Thatcher had Tyler in an armbar. So Thatcher didn't know what happened, and he sees this happen, or he hears that they lost, and he's like, what the fuck, Walter? I had him beat. You fucked it up. You ruined it. What are you doing, you piece of shit? I'm paraphrasing. So there's a little bit of dissension between Thatcher and Walter here. And then Walter gets on the mic. I think this is a first for him in Progress. The audio was a bit rough. I couldn't really make out exactly what was said, but ultimately where we get to, basically Walter's like, look, we're not going to argue. We're not going to go back and forth on the mic. That's not our style. That's not what Ringkampf does. We're going to settle our issues in the ring. Riddle laid out the challenge to me to challenge him for the Atlas title, but I know you also won a number one contendership match in New York. So the way we're going to settle this is a triple threat match. Matt Riddle defending the Atlas title at Ali Pally against Walter and Timothy Thatcher. Delicious fucking food. So that's been set up for chapter 55. And yeah, looking forward to that one. But with that, that's Boston. That's New York. Let's go back to London, shall we? Let's talk a little chapter 54 with a man who had a pretty big spot in a main event angle on that show. And it was also the commentator for chapter 54, as he has been for several of the chapters before and some going forward. Let's move on to chapter 54 with my lovely, lovely guest, Callum Leslie.
4 yesterday. 4.
Oh, born on a leap year? No, that wouldn't make sense.
No,
that was yesterday.
I'm just 4 years old.
I could see it. I could see you being like the world's biggest baby.
Thanks. Like when the Big Show
Welcome.
dressed up that one time.
You look like you're made to be like in a diaper, like in a good way, if that makes any sense.
Nope. Doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, anyways, we got progress chapter.
That's why I do these
54.
shows, to be treated with respect.
The enlightenment and the respect, obviously. Yeah. Yes. It's a very good reason. But no, glad to have you here. I mean, couldn't have picked a better guest to talk about this event, chapter 54.
Wow.
There, Callie.
I had to come give you I've given you so many scoops and inside stories.
Scoop of something, yeah.
Since we've been doing these now. And I had to come back and give you the inside story on let's face it, the highlight of my wrestling career.
I mean, the kick heard around the world, some are calling
Exactly. Yeah.
So that'll be the climax of this one. But so earlier in this episode, I talked the Boston and New York shows that occurred earlier this month. I don't know. You didn't come along for those, did you?
No, I wasn't there, but I knew a lot of people who were. Yeah, those were really interesting shows. Obviously, the New York show, man, a lot happened on that show. Obviously, TK Cooper got really badly hurt.
Yeah, right after his return too.
Yeah, right after his return, which was devastating. Really devastating, because I think TK was really, really poised for great things.
Yeah.
And then they had to work out that match on the fly with the 2-on-1. That was all done on the fly. It was unbelievably hot in there, I'm led to believe. Unbelievably.
I read online that the AC went out. Is that true?
I don't know if it went out or it just wasn't any good.
Right.
Because it might just not have been that good because it's a big building and, a lot of people. And
I also heard it was oversold, which could have also contributed to it not working to its efficiency.
I don't know. I know the walls were sweating. That's
sure.
That's what I heard. And I did hear at least one person passed out.
Whew.
It was it was really bad. I mean, guys were coming to the ring drenched in sweat.
Dude, Walter and Matt Riddle in the main event, they're just slapping the shit out of each other and it just poof, just puddles and puddles of water. It made for a cool visual, but yeah, I'm sure being there physically was kind of a drag.
It was crazy. And I mean, if you've watched the show, you've obviously seen the Boston show where James kind of explains a little bit about what happened in that overnight.
Right.
Where the bus that was supposed to take them to Boston wasn't there. So they waited for ages for the bus, and then the bus, this is my understanding, the bus wasn't coming. They ended up getting like the first train in the morning from New York up to Boston. So people just like didn't sleep. And I remember my enduring image of the Boston show is Jim sitting in the ring looking like he's about to pass out at the start because it was crazy. Yeah, it was a whole transport nightmare.
Yeah, it seems like that damn United States always causing trouble. I mean, the public transport over here really is bad for no reason. Seems like everywhere else has it. I mean, the trains, the everything. It's just you go to Japan and you just get shot to the other end of the continent. Here is just it's like the 1800s over here at the Trans. It's nuts, but
Yeah, but it was. I mean, those shows were so hot; they sold out so quickly, especially the New York
yeah.
show. I mean, that show was. It's an incredible show, even, but I would not have wanted to be there live because I might have died.
No, yeah, that was what was striking to me watching it, is that like the New York and Boston shows, like you said, were super hot. And then we're also about to approach the Ali Pally show the following month. So progress seems to be in a pretty good place at this point. I mean, do you have any like memories or like just in terms of like what the sentiment was like? Because Progress is really working a lot with WWE at this point, but is it like kind of up in the air? Because like the NXT UK title exists, but there's not a brand yet. Like, what was the overall feeling in terms of like where Progress was at this point?
It's a good question. I think that it was still pretty hot. You know, the shows were still selling really well. There was still a lot of popularity online, and in general, I think the WWE stuff at this point was not really an impediment for Progress. It was a factor that had to be considered, and obviously, you know, once Pete has that, if someone has that WWE belt, that becomes a booking consideration,
Right.
which does become, you know, that becomes a not a problem necessarily, but maybe makes things a bit predictable in some senses. But generally, I mean, there were obviously, I think, some hardcore fans who were like, Progress is sold out. You know, it's not the same as it was, and you know, there's definitely an argument that like that really organic, really story driven, the level to which people are bought into like the Jimmy Havoc story and the Will Ospreay rise, was probably never replicated in Progress. It was like it's one of those special lightning in a bottle moments that you just get the right group of people at the right time, in the right place for the right moment where, you know, we're pre AEW obviously, so the fans are watching a truly awful WWE product and desperate for an alternative. So yeah, it was an interesting time. I mean, there was lots of stuff going on. You know, obviously the guys involved in Progress were also involved with the WWE by this point in various capacities, whether that was just like, obviously they were on camera at the tournament show in the January. They eventually all worked on NXT UK. I don't know. I got the sense, because obviously we're going to talk about Chapter 54. It's a really funny show. In that it felt like they arrived at the day of the show not really knowing what they were going to do, which was very unprogress, because it was so meticulously booked, and you know, they had they had these long-term plans and stories. It kind of felt like we laid out what we were doing for Ali Pally, right? We knew we were doing Travis having won the tournament. We knew from the New York show that we were going to go back to Riddle and Walter and Thatcher in that three-way. Obviously, we've been swapping the tag titles back and forth between CCK and British Strong Style, so that was going to come to a head. Feels like we kind of got to this show and went, oh, there's one left before we get there. Kind of, what do we do?
It feels like a pre-show in a lot of ways to Ali Pally, Chapter 54.
It's a go-home show, right? And that's, I guess, what they tried to do. You know, in the main event, they end up with this tag team match with opponents at the big show teaming up, which is very, very WWE. And, you know, that was fun for some people. Some people obviously rolled their eyes at it, that it was more WWE type stuff.
I kind of liked how it went about, though. There was something in particular I did not like about the finish of it, but I like how that match was created and how the match was booked throughout. But the finish kind of gave me some pause. But
yeah, so that I believe the main event of 54 was supposed to be, well, yeah, I don't know, because they didn't announce it. I think my understanding arriving on the day was they were going to do a Thunder Bastard for some reason with those guys.
Interesting.
And Flash, and I think Sexsmith and Mike Bird were there, and probably ended up getting paid to do nothing on that show.
Right.
Yeah, I don't really know what I think that was the plan, but I never really understood why or to what end we were doing that.
Yeah, I mean, the card itself is pretty underwhelming, at least in comparison to some other shows that Progress has been doing in this time period. Not a bad show, I would say, but definitely it feels like we're kind of just crawling to Ali Pally at this point, just trying to get there, like you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. We've got this big show, and I think the strong style CCK singles matches were really strong, and that helped prop the card up a lot. But yeah, coming off these New York and Boston shows, I think everyone it felt like there was a lot of fatigue in the team.
Yes, I felt that as well watching this.
Yeah, a lot of fatigue, and it was for 54. You know, it was good. There were some of us like me and Ross. We were able to come in and pinch hit a little bit. Who hadn't been on that tour and hadn't had to deal with all the problems coming off that tour.
So you're fresh as a daisy, just ready to get walloped.
What did because we did the last show we did was strong style.
Sure. Yep.
Then what did we do? We did 50 with the title change.
Right.
51 with the change back in Birmingham. 52. I did that show, right? I'm on that show. I
don't remember.
I think so.
Right.
That's a show that. Yeah. Well, that was a Manchester one, so I was still doing those at that point. But this is about we're heading to the time where I stopped doing as many shows because they discovered, unfortunately for me, that Matt Richards is a much better broadcaster than me, and lives a lot closer to lives in Manchester, so does those shows and I think lived in Manchester. I don't, but certainly lived in that area. He became the preferred second choice behind RJ, and then RJ started scaling his stuff back. So that this is the period where it ended up being Glenn and Matt. And I've said on this show before, Matt is the best broadcaster who ever did any of these Progress shows. So that was fine by me. This was also the time I was getting out of my own career in esports and into a real job. So I was having to take time off and stuff from an office job now to come and do these shows, which was fun. But yeah, so this was the end of me doing a lot of shows through 2016, 2017.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've said it before. You're like the perfect Mike Tenay to any broadcast team. Matt Richards, he's a great lead guy. Love RJ as well, also. So, but you are kind of a professor in a lot of ways, and I would like to get your professor's, analysis on Strangler Davis. Strangler Davis. I mean, it's opening match here versus Connor Mills, by the way.
Yeah, it's funny because so again, the show before this, 53, before the American Swing, was a crazy show, right? All sorts of stuff happened on that. The TK and Dahlia coming back, a huge moment, one of the biggest moments ever in the ballroom.
Oh yeah.
And then we had this split in the London riots, with JD turning on Rob, and it seemed like Rob was it seemed like it was maybe done at the time. So they were obviously trying to do something with JD. I mean, they'd been around a long time. They'd been on since the second show. Neither of them ever had much success singles.
Right.
I think, I mean, obviously now knowing what we know about JD and as a part, he was cancelled before it was cool. He was cancelled
pretty soon after this.
Yeah, it was not long. I think it was maybe the next year.
I think it was the very beginning of 2018. Yeah.
Yeah. That one of his ex-partners came forward. And I think obviously that makes it quite awkward in hindsight. Look, I'm all for guys trying new stuff. And I think it was good to see a guy get a shot as a singles guy, having been a tag guy for so long. But yeah, it wasn't really a winning gimmick for me. And I don't think, I just don't, it didn't really provoke any strong feelings in people either way.
Yeah, once you get over the initial turn on Rob, it's like, what can you offer us now? And this feels like very much like an early 2010s British wrestling. Like I feel like he would have thrived in 2012 or something, but in this time period, whereas as hot as it ever was and the talent is so deep. Yeah, he's not bad per se. It's just nothing's really striking about him that makes me want to pay a ticket to see him.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. When you look at the talent that was around the show at the time, in the Dart match on Chapter 54 is the first appearance in Progress of Aussie Open. So you've got Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis on the pre-show. You've got Doug Williams coming in. You've got Tim Thatcher coming in regularly. Obviously, we've brought CCK in. All this new talent that was coming in, and then trying to make Davis part of that. I think think people were in this match were probably more invested in Connor Mills as a guy who they knew was a progress trainee and was someone that we were watching come through and develop. And has obviously gone on to have a really amazing career in the British Indies. Shout out Glenn Joseph, was always a Connor Mills booster, was always a Connor Mills guy, believed since day one.
Day one.
A day one Connor Mills believer. But yeah, so that I think, yeah, they gave it a go. It wasn't very good, and it didn't last very long.
This match, to me, felt like Fit Finlay versus Colin Delaney in a lot of ways. Like Dave or Strangler, like all of his, he's clearly very Finlay influenced. He does like a Finlay roll on the outside. Instead of a shillelagh, he has the cricket bat or whatever the hell. And
you said Connor Mills is Colin Delaney. I can't unsee it.
So here, like nowadays, he doesn't really look like him, but here he looks like a striking, like a better wrestler than Colin Delaney is. Although maybe Colin's a good wrestler. I don't really know much about him beyond what I've seen, but yeah, it was a fine. Like you said, Connor's super new here. I mean, is he fresh out of the Progress Dojo, you said? Or whatever they're calling it? The Projo. Are they still calling it the Projo at this point?
No, I think at this point it had been officially, and I don't know when, actually. That's a good question. I would need to check that. At a certain point, it became independently owned by Daryl Allen and became Knuckle Locks.
Knuckle Locks. All right. Sounds sexual.
I think Connor was officially part of but was at least part of it before it was not Progress anymore.
Okay, well, yeah, he's made a pretty big name for himself since then. So props to Connor. But in this one, Strangler wins with the Strangler hold, which is sort of seemed like a Cobra clutch of sorts, and gets the win. Now, also, when he turned on Rob, they had the match before, which JD won, and that match was for the #1 contendership for the Atlas Championship. Do they just pretend like that never happened, or
no? It comes back later on.
Okay.
We'll get back to it.
Not that I'm like itching to get there, but it's like, oh, what happened? What happened with that?
We'll get back to it, and we'll get out of it.
We'll put a pin in that one, and then put it in the shredder. Yeah, but yeah,
I think he ends up losing it very quickly. The shot to Tim Thatcher when Rob comes back. Towards the end of the year, early the next year. Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that.
I look forward to it. But I also look forward to talking about Flash and Friends, or whatever. What was it called?
Wrestling Friends. So Flash had a podcast at this time, which was doing quite well. Remember when podcasts were like a positive thing in the universe?
Podcasts suck. I fucking hate them, man. Honestly, enough podcasts.
You shouldn't be allowed to do podcasts these days.
If you're on a podcast, you're an asshole, is what I think.
Unethical to do podcasts in 2026. But back in 2017, this sort of thing it was a British version of Colt Cabana's Art of Wrestling.
Right.
Which Flash had started while he was out injured because he wanted to do something and, keep himself relevant, which is what you should do. And I've had a lot of really great interviews. He did a really great interview with RJ, where RJ talked about a lot of the personal stuff he's been through in the side of his career that people didn't really know about, and some other bunch of really great interviews. So they did a live one here. Again, this was all on the fly. It wasn't like there was a long-term plan to have Townsend the plant. They just found the plant backstage.
Is it related to Mitch the plant?
Townsend.
It was Mitch though, right? Did Dean Ambrose had Mitch, I think, right? Remember?
Sure. Was that about this time? It probably was, right?
I was trying to remember. I think it might have been around that because it was like 2016-ish, I think. Maybe. Sure. I could be wrong on that, but yeah.
And, two really big laughs for me in this segment are at the start where Jimmy and Mark are squaring up, and then, they're like, it's fine. We sort it out backstage. It's fine. And possibly bigger laugh for Travis Banks shaking hands with the plant.
I didn't even catch that. That's since it. I really enjoyed this segment way more than I thought it would because it's Flash hosting it.
It's very on Progress, isn't it? Though I think it's very different.
Yeah, it's definitely like how can we further build Jimmy Havoc versus Mark Haskins. What better way than a talk show, which, to be fair, Flash I thought was perfect in this role. I didn't know he had a podcast. I might need to check that out in hindsight. But I feel like, because most of my consumption of him is through what I've watched so far in Progress and NXT UK. I feel like he never got the chance to really talk. He's like this super charismatic, funny dude. It's like, why isn't this like more at the forefront for him? But
it's a fair question. That a lot of these guys could talk.
Yeah.
I always thought Haskins was kind of overrated as a talk, was underrated, sorry, as a talker as well. And Travis had a certain comedy to him that worked really well.
Yeah, it's a lot of dry humor in this ring right now. Well, I wouldn't call Flash dry. He's very wet humor from Flash, but Jim
Smallman got to do his Teddy Long tribute, which, as I say, I think some people maybe rolled their eyes at a little
bucket
bit,
list,
given the WWE connection. But yeah,
right,
it got a big pop in the room, so people were into the idea. And I mean, I always thought this show should have been something different for Pete, because Pete had been getting into it with various people, including myself, obviously, on this show. But I'd previously got into it with RJ, and Pete was doing all through this period after Strong Style, wasn't defending the title again, so was having these basically title eliminator matches with. Started off with Dijak, sort of open challenge type thing, but then some guys who maybe weren't in title contention but had issues with Pete Dunne, Eddie, Sexsmith. I thought there was a really open goal for Pete and RJ to wrestle on a show. Now, would it have been the main event? I don't know, but I think that could. I think RJ's returning to the ring, in the main Progress shows, was a card that was never played. It was something that was left on the table. And I think could have been a big moment. It could have been really effective against Pete as a heel, particularly the disrespect of the Progress legacy and the stepping on the title and all of that.
Yeah.
I think they could have had a really, really hot match.
Damn.
And that would have made perfect sense in this slot before we get to Ali Pally. Pete can get a lot of heat by beating the shit out of a old man.
You calling RJ an old man?
Yes, I called him old yesterday when he texted me for my birthday as well.
Whoa, well now he is. Jesus Christ.
I said that I'm almost as old as him because that is how aging works.
You're catching up. You'll get there.
Not how it works.
But yeah, ultimately, it's a fun segment. Like you said, Haskins and Havoc. Like they had the whole pull apart. I don't know if it was a chapter before this or two chapters where like Vicky got involved and Havoc kind of put his hands on her, and then Haskins got pissed, obviously, and they had a pull apart. So when they come out here, they get in each other's face. They do the whole WWE trope where it's like a talk show type of thing. Oh, we're going to fight and ruin this set. But then they just shake hands, hug, and then sit down. And they keep it very cordial throughout.
You mentioned Vicky. I think just because we were talking about how this was very unplanned, a lot of this show. But to give an idea of how far in advance they think about these things, I remember chapter 28, one of the Manchester shows where Marty defended the title against Haskins. Yeah. And Vicky came in the ring at the end. And I remember, I think it might have been Glenn, saying to me, we're going to introduce Vicky at the end as a character. And we don't necessarily have plans to do anything with her right away, but we want her to exist as part of the character of Mark.
Yeah, people know Vicky.
Yeah, we want her to know where she is. We want people to know that she's a part of this, and then at some point we can then bring her in, and she gets more involved like this, and obviously beyond this when they end up teaming together, she gets a lot more involved over 2018.
Right. Yeah. No, she definitely becomes a bigger part of Haskins' whole thing. But yeah, so here, Haskins and Havoc, they're kind of going back and forth, kind of being passive aggressive. And Jimmy's like, I do like this line from Jimmy on like, man, they had to fight tooth and nail to take that title away from me, but you just gave it up, which was a pretty scathing remark. And then it kind of progressively got more aggressive. Then Travis Banks comes out and he's like, I'm just here to remind you guys that I'm walking out of Ali Pally as the Progress champion. And then Flash comes in. It's like, look, we got the numbers here. We need to stick together to take down British Strong Style. We got to keep that in mind. And then Pete Dunne comes out, and basically, I guess the thought is that Pete is going to pick Travis's opponent for tonight, which they haven't done in the previous couple chapters. And Pete picks Mark Haskins and Jimmy Havoc to be Travis's opponents. And then Travis also picks Mark and Jimmy to be Pete's opponents. And then there's this whole like logistical, like, well, how's that going to work? And then that's, like you mentioned, Jim Smallman becomes Teddy Long, makes a tag team match playa. And we got the opponents teaming up in the main event. We got Pete Dunne and Travis Banks going to be taking on Jimmy Havoc and Mark Haskins. How are they going to coexist, Callum?
That was the key question. How can they coexist? It didn't make much sense, did it? But it is the last show before a big show, and you do kind of, it's different. It's difficult, isn't it? Because obviously Progress started out running these individual events, right? So every event is sort of a big deal. But the more shows they're running, the more there's peaks and troughs, and we've got this big show coming up at Ali Pali in a few weeks. This is the last show. This is the moment to really sell people on that Ali Pali show. I remember before the Brixton show, there was a really, really strong closing angle with FSU and the Origin brawling while Party Hard was playing for like ages.
Right.
And then Haskins standing tall with a title at the end. That was a really effective end of that show. I don't know that we got something like that here, but we at least kept things on the boil.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, to your point from earlier, it did feel like a go-home Raw in a lot of ways, for better or worse. But we continue that build to Ali Pali because, like you mentioned, we're going to have the tag team titles on the line next chapter. It's going to be CCK versus BSS. And we have a series of singles matches to determine the two stipulations for that tag team title match. The first of which is Tyler Bate versus Kid Lycos. And a pretty good match. I mean, like, I have no complaints about this match. Tyler versus Lycos, like two smaller guys, but it allowed Tyler to be kind of like the powerhouse here, which is always fun. There's a big small lads wrestling chant, which I thought was fun, which Tyler did not appreciate.
I didn't like that. This is probably the match of the show for me. I think the best match on the show.
I would agree. Yeah.
I think in this period, Tyler's just like maybe one of the best wrestlers in the world. Like this 2017 to 2019 stretch, I just think he's one of the best in the world. The matches he has over the next few years are, the Wembley match with Walter, and then obviously the takeover match with Walter and the takeover with Pete. Tyler's really about to take off, and he was having amazing matches here. He'd been great in the tournament, and really had an excellent match with Lycos here. I said this on commentary at the time, but Lycos had really, really been showing out in the matches he'd had in Progress so far. I think they were keen to avoid some of the character stuff, which had Lycos as more of a sidekick.
Right.
So he was getting, he got the pin in the tag to win the tag titles. He gets the singles match here with Tyler, who's arguably the bigger star of the British Strong Style tag team. Leaves Brooks to do the fun with Trent. But yeah, I thought this match was awesome, and I think Tyler's just so good. He's so good, and it's such a shame that he's I don't know, retired, I guess,
or Ragu or whatever his name is now.
Yeah.
It's a wild one. Yeah, I was convinced Tyler was going to be the next big babyface in wrestling. He had it all. Like in NXT UK, he had a great run, and then he just stopped. Don't know. It is interesting though watching him as a heel here, which is always like, I feel like he has this weird like kind of unspoken charisma about him where he can almost pull it off. Even like the whole faction as a unit, I feel like, to me, they're not really gripping me as like a heel unit. I almost feel like people I don't know. I think maybe not likable. I think they're just cool wrestlers, and people like cool wrestlers, and nobody is even going to come close to kind of capturing what like a Jimmy Havoc did back in the day. So British strong style in this position is always a weird one. I don't know. What did you think about Tyler working as a heel in this time period?
Yeah, I mean, British strong style were a huge deal in British wrestling at this point. Again, 2017, 2018, they were legitimately huge for business. The amount of merch that they were selling was outrageous. The queues would always be insane. And they made a real difference to the shows that they were on. I guess for Progress fans, if you didn't like the WWE stuff, you were probably not here anymore that much. If you were here, you were probably on board with the WWE stuff, and those three guys were kind of the focus of that. They were the standard bearers, right, for WWE UK before it was a thing. With the belt between Tyler and Pete, and they were really and they as you say, they were. I think the crowd were ready for them to just embrace their popularity, I guess, and that happens pretty quickly after Ali Pali, and they become a sort of not a mascot, not in that sense, but they're very much still a standard bearer for the whole period that they're in Progress. They're very much a sort of signature act. I remember the shows in Germany; they were hugely over in Germany. They were huge everywhere. They really were. British Strong Style and CCK, it has to be said, were two of the hottest acts in independent wrestling at this point. And were really, people would buy tickets to see them. And I know CCK coming into Progress was a huge moment in Manchester, and was something that the fans had wanted for a long time, and had been a long time coming. And I think that it does, we're very much in the Wolverhampton takeover period of wrestling, where that core of the Midlands crew of Pete Dunne, Tyler, Trent, Travis, Brooks, Lycos, Aussie Open, they basically take over the scene in a lot of ways, and are the core of the British wrestling scene through this period.
Yeah, and I mean, those two matches, the tag team titles and the world title, are the highlight matches of Ali Pali, so it makes a lot of sense. But this match between Bate and Lycos ends when Trent Seven comes out, interferes, and gives Lycos a lariat from the outside, and this allows Tyler to hit the Tyler driver for the 1-2-3. So British Strong Style gets to determine the first stipulation of the tag title match at Ali Pali. And I love the way Trent grabs the mic, and there's an immediate Punjabi prison chant. So Trent, he's setting the scene, just like, oh, imagine the lights go down. And this is a terrible accent.
I was going to say, is that your Trent Seven?
That was more like who is this? Go down. That's Scottish. That's more of a Scottish accent.
Don't do accents.
You wouldn't know anything about that, though. I'll try not to. But he's like, oh, imagine, and you hear the duh of the cage lowering. That's right. Ali Pali, it's going to be a Punjabi prison match. Crowd pops, maybe the biggest pop of the night. And then Trent tells him to suck his dick. And he's like, nope, just kidding. It is going to be a normal 2-on-2 match. Falls count anywhere in the ring. Sensational stuff by Trent Seven.
Good work from Trent. One thing I mentioned to you when we were talking about this show as well is this show. Glenn popped in and out on commentary for this show, but this show and 50 were, I think, the only two shows where I nominally was doing play-by-play, because I think we'd sort of realized between Ross and myself that we were both color guys, obviously, but I think his color maybe added more to the match than mine did necessarily. He had a lot of emotion, a lot of feeling to it that was more important, I think, than what I was offering, and more necessary. Because I don't know if this comes across, but I certainly felt it, and this was deliberate on my part, especially when we were doing 3-man booth. I would say a lot at the start of matches and say less and less as it went on.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm not there to be a part of those moments. I'm there to be a part of setting that up, setting the table for that, telling the story. And then when we get to those big moments, I would lay out and let Glenn and RJ sell the emotion of that. Because when they win, you don't really need this is the 15th match. You don't need the stats in that moment. You want the emotion. So I was trying to do play by play. I'm sure it was horrible. Please inform me if you have any clangers that I dropped.
It didn't really stick out to me, honestly. Like,
okay, good.
I mean, I feel like you always do a good job at like laying out the context, because especially if it's like a month in between shows sometimes. So maybe you forget like where we are storyline wise or who won that match at the previous chapters. I feel like you did serve a very necessary purpose.
Well, I tried. I was very proud of myself. I don't know if by this point, but certainly at some point, Travis started doing an Argentine powerbomb, and I was the only one who knew what that move was called. That was a proud
nerd. Yeah, you need one of those. You need one of those in the booth. But we move on from that to a number one contendership match for the Progress Women's title. Dahlia Black versus Ginny. I was shocked by the result, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
I know it's only a matter of time before Ginny gets the title, but I thought this might have been it. But
actually, it's quite a while before Ginny gets the title.
That's insane. What are we doing?
Yes, no, I agree. I was very. I mean, I think we talked about this at the time. I was very surprised Ginny didn't win the title straight away.
Yeah, me too.
To really establish that this was a division that they'd crafted over a period. They had waited to introduce a women's championship and a women's division until they had created the talent to be in that spot. In hindsight, I think obviously Toni Storm was the right decision. But yeah, this felt to me like, okay, we're gonna do Ginny Toni 1-on-1 now. I think there was a sense, obviously, that Dahlia was hot because her and TK had just come back. I don't know if this was the plan all along. I don't know because that's something that I was thinking about watching this show. Is then when you look at Ali Pali and you look at these shows, like where was TK supposed to fit?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Because we get at the end of the year and into 2018, at the start of 2018, there's a fun three-way singles program with Travis and Brooks and TK, and that sort of split allegiance thing comes to the fore then. But obviously, we didn't really get to explore it here. And I don't really know what TK would have been doing other than maybe a run-in to help Travis fend off British Strong Style in the main event. So yeah, I don't know. Dahlia always had her supporters, people that were very, very keen to push her to the front. She'd been a huge part of the women's division. I think, obviously, had been out at the wrong time to be a part of the tournament.
Right.
I believe she's credited with the design of the original belt.
Is she now?
I believe that's the case. And I know that
maybe that's why. Now you get a shot at the belt for your payment. That makes a lot of sense.
Possibly. But I know Glenn Joseph FaceTimed or whatever Dahlia during the main event of that Strong Style where they were crowning the women's champion for the first time, and she watched it all via FaceTime on Glenn's phone on the commentary table. So it meant a lot for her to be back and in this mix, and I think there's some stuff about Ali Pali, but yeah, interesting decision. I never really felt like Dahlia was a strong enough wrestler. She should be at the championship level in Progress.
Whenever I see her wrestle, I'm always like, she's like a little bit better version of a Stacy Keibler. Like she's an attractive lady, and she's like a pretty athletic woman, but like in terms of wrestling, just pure wrestling, she's not the most crisp. But neither is Ginny, really. I mean, I feel like, when I was watching this match, I'm like, I love the energy of it, even though it's not like the smoothest in a lot of ways. There was a lot of, again, just like energy and intensity. And like we're coming off of, I forget if it was the Boston or New York show where Ginny really put a hurting on Dahlia's leg. Of course, Dahlia's just returned from a broken leg. So that's the whole story going into this. So there was, there's a point where like Dahlia does a power bomb to Ginny, but she's still selling the leg. So she does it with one leg. So there's some good stuff in this match. And I thought Ginny had it when she hit the acid rainmaker and then the style clash. for a 2 count, but Dahlia wins with a small package out of nowhere. And yeah,
Big package in tribute to the champion.
Big package. Well, there's only one big package. You know, all their packages are small, as far as I see it. So
I don't know if you watch Dynasty, I think Andrade's package is pretty big.
Is it though?
I saw a lot of it.
It's present for sure.
It really had Darby's eye out, so it's pretty big.
I do love the thought that he just gets turned on by wrestling. I love that. I love that element of his character.
Oh, you can see my shelf now because I've reorganized. This is an aside.
Oh, do you got an Andrade boner figure over there?
No, that is a shelf of figures of guys that I called matches for. Generally, there's a couple of exceptions. But
what are the exceptions?
Regal's on the shelf. He cut a promo on a show that I worked on. That counts.
That counts.
And in my previous career working in MMA journalism, I interviewed Ken Shamrock a bunch of times. I was involved kind of in helping him promote a fight. So he's on the shelf as well. But other than that, it's all guys who wrestled for Progress that I call matches for.
It's all above board to me. Makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
So yeah, I guess we're getting Dahlia versus Tony at Ali Pally, which feels like a weird, just two crowd favorites. It does feel like we're kind of in this period of the women's title. Obviously, it's the inaugural champion, Toni Storm. It still feels like they're trying to build up the prestige of the title, maybe by giving Toni a lot of defenses. It kind of feels like a workhorse title in a lot of ways. I don't know if that was the intention. Like she's just coming off of a great match with Candice LeRae very recently before this, and some other ones, Nixon Newell, I think. I
think that if I remember rightly, the Manchester show before this, which I was on commentary for, I was right. Yeah, Toni was making a habit at this point of having people's best matches in Progress in her title defenses. So she had a match with Laura Di Matteo on that Manchester show. That was awesome. Easily the best I'd ever seen Laura look. I don't know who else but yeah, she wrestled Candice LeRae on 53. I'm trying to remember who it was on 51.
I think.
Oh, she wrestled Kaylee Ray at 50.
Another very good match.
Yeah. And she wasn't on 51. But yeah, she was having a lot of really, really good matches at this point. So there was at least a sense that, from my perspective, they're like, well, at least I think Tony's going to get a really good match out of Dahlia at Ali Pally. But yeah, to babyface on babyface is a little odd for a big, blow off show. But that's where we ended up, and Ginny was kept on a simmer for another year. I think.
Wow, that's wild.
2018. So it would have been 16.
Was it the Wembley show?
So maybe it's the next spring. Because she's champion before Wembley.
Okay.
She defends it at Wembley. I think she wins it at the big Manchester show, whenever that was, which was chapter 69.
Gotcha. Nice.
Yeah. Sexsmith got a title shot on that show as well.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe it. I mean, gee whiz. Can't wait to get to that one. But before that, we got a second stipulation to figure out here for that tag match at Ali Pally. We got Chris Brooks versus Trent Seven. And Trent, back on the mic, says he can't believe that he's in this shithole when I was just in Barclays Center where 15,000 people were screaming for me, which the crowd then chants pre-show at him. Or then Trent's like, yeah, it was a pre-show recorded for the main event of NXT, you fucking dorks, which, hell yeah, Trent, clap back queen. And Trent was like, you're about to see me in everything. I'm going to have a sticker book. I'm going to be on the new WWE 2K computer game. And you can find the computer game. And then, his theme song is going to be on Spotify. And that name is going to be Trent fucking. And then Chris Brooks with a flying knee to start the match. And almost beats him in 6 seconds once again, but not this time.
His Fed theme was a banger, to be fair to Trent. His singles theme I'm not going to sing on your podcast. You don't pay me.
Give it a try. You don't need to sing. You can hum.
And he did make it onto the video game a couple of times.
He did. So
not quite yet. Was a little early for it. Yeah, I rewatched this match, and yeah, I had no memory of at the finish me shouting "fuck you, British strong style." I had no memory of that whatsoever, and
you were in it.
I was in it, man. I was so invested because I think we'd done a bunch. Because that match ends with a bunch of run-ins. And it looks like Strong Style are going to get up again with the three guys, but then actually CCK do the double team. So fuck you. You lost at your own game. I did think, like, was that after I was told? Because I wasn't told about the main event until the interval, I don't think. So did I know that we were doing that? But this wasn't before. This was before the interval. So no, I just said that.
You're just speaking from your heart. You can't fault that.
It's almost as if they heard me.
Really giving it to them. But like you mentioned,
They're the bad guys.
Fuck them, right? Tony Schiavone was doing the same thing with the NWO back in the day. Exactly. We got you. He wasn't saying fuck you, NWO, but he was like, you rascals. We gotcha. When Sting beat Hogan. So same thing.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing when you think about it. But no, yeah, a fun match here. It's pretty much what you would expect, and it's ridden with run-ins at the end, like you mentioned. But ultimately, CCK gets the upper hand as they get in and do their double team lung blower senton combination. As Tyler has the ref distracted on the other side, and Chris Brooks gets the win here. And then CCK, have the opportunity to name the second stipulation, in which they choose a ladder match. Oh boy. Again, hopefully this goes better than the previous ladder matches in progress.
Yeah. Only the second ever. Well, this is only the second ever at this point. So this is okay. We'd had the one with Mark and Jimmy in the ballroom on the second.
So that one was good. They had I guess it was a TLC match technically with the London Riots.
The Riots and SDS. This was TLC where the ladder broke.
Not great.
And the ref had to physically hold it up and actually dislocated his shoulder doing so.
What? Really?
The ref legitimately got hurt doing that.
Oh, well, do they invest in better ladders this time?
Yeah, actually, the one at Ali Pali's is really good.
Okay.
The next one that's a problem is the Wembley one with the tables that wouldn't break.
Seems like a common problem over there. I don't know what the furniture situation is over there in Europe, but
oh dear,
maybe it's not. I mean, they're just too sturdy. Maybe it's a good thing.
Yeah. We'll talk about that one day. Remind me to tell you who's to blame.
Oh boy, I can only guess. But so we got CCK versus Mustache Mountain.
Yeah, I don't know what was supposed to have happened if they picked completely they did pick contradictory stipulations. Because there are no falls now,
right?
So Trent stipulations.
What if it was like an Iron Man ladder match,
But I guess what if this had happened the other way around and Lycos had won, and then Trent had won the second one and overruled his. So doing it one after the other did create this weird, slight logic gap, which was kind of present in a lot of this show. That we were just like, well, what we want to get to is CCK Strong Style in a ladder match.
Right.
The whole idea is that they have that Strong Style have all the power and they have the title, so we can't just book it. I don't know. Maybe
you could have also just had one singles match and that be the the stipulation, perhaps. But I don't know. You get two good matches out of it. What's whatever.
I mean, probably the two best matches on the card. So,
yeah, I would say so for sure. We do have maybe some competition for that here. This next match, we got a very early iteration of the Grizzled Young Veterans versus FSU, team of Eddie Dennis and Mark Andrews. I mean, it was a good match. I mean, I was looking at this pairing and I was like, oh, this is going to steal the show easily. But ultimately, it ended up being just a pretty good match, I feel like. I don't know. What do you think about this one?
I think part of the problem was that the tag titles were sort of occupied. So what do you
Right.
do with the rest of the tag division? You've just put Drake and Gibson together. What a pairing that ended up being, by the way. I think 4-time Progress Tag Champs in the end.
I mean, instant chemistry. Just even early on here, you can see it.
Yeah, it's funny because I think the world of Nathan Cruz. I love Nathan Cruz to death, but the Cruz Gibson tag team after the Origin was just kind of there. It was like they didn't really have a plan, and Cruz cut that promo, which I don't know if that made it on the show, but it certainly was online, that of him walking away from Progress at the end of that after chapter 50.
It was on the show. He took his ball and went home, he said.
Yeah, and doesn't come back until post-COVID. Yeah, post-COVID.
Right.
He's been back, but this was clearly an upgrade. If what they were looking at Zach Gibson was a tag guy, this was a much more effective partner for him. Much better chemistry, as you said. They actually were a team rather than two guys who had been part of a group who'd been left on their own, which is never a great look. I've been watching a lot of WCW 2000 recently, and so I have a group of friends that we watch wrestling every Thursday night, and we do various arcs, much like yourself.
Sure,
but we do one at a time because we're not psychopaths.
I get it.
We tend to do like a really good one and then a bad one and then a fun one. So we did the last one we did was Prime New Japan, 2010's New Japan. And from that, we decided to watch the Vince Russo era of WCW.
I don't know what the opposite of a palate cleanser is, but that's what that is.
Right?
That's what that is.
But it works. I mean, we've been watching shows for like 3 years weekly at this point. We did NXT Black and Gold, and then we did Lucha Underground, and then then we went from Lucha Underground to New Japan, which again we needed some actual wrestling after watching Lucha Underground.
There's wrestling in Lucha Underground. It depends what season you're watching.
There is. I mean, particularly towards the end, there's not a lot of good wrestling in Lucha Underground. Lucha Underground was ruined by the. Sorry, this is a total.
Please.
We can do the Lucha Underground podcast another time.
Yes.
Was ruined by the Cueto Cup at the end of season 2. Up until the Cueto Cup, right at the end of season 2, Lucha Underground was excellent. But
really,
they did this really long single elimination tournament that went on forever. Towards the end of season 2, yeah.
Okay.
It's not good.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it was definitely the 4th season in the new place when Cueto's a zombie or whatever, or it's like his dad or whatever the hell it is.
It's his weird dad with the weird eye. But all this to say, the Grizzled Young Veterans.
Speaking of grizzled young veterans, are here.
Antonio Cueto. No, the vets were, I think, pretty immediately a great tag team. You could see the chemistry, and I think we talked about this on commentary. They were getting better and better every match, and they'd had I think they wrestled Never Say Die on the show before.
Yeah,
this was a real test. This was the first tag team champions in FSU. At the same time, FSU also in a bit of a weird place at the moment, not really featured in the tag division. They'd been obviously set back by the Origin. They'd been set back by British Strong Style. They'd failed in all their attempts to really get something going in the tag division.
Yeah.
Obviously at Ali Pali, there's a pretty big development coming for them that will influence the next year. But at this point, they were kind of a bit of a nothing babyface tag team. Still very popular, but not quite where they were or where they would be. And this was about Drake and Gibson getting off and rolling to where they were going to be a pretty significant figure in the post-British Strong Style tag team division.
Okay. Yeah. The tag division's always, I feel like, has been a weakness up to this point for Progress. Like, it feels like there's only like 2 or 3 teams in the picture at a given time. And the Origin, I feel like they had the monopoly on it for like years. But seeing JYV here gives me hope. And teams like Aussie Open coming into the picture and things like that. And
yeah, I think that was the problem, is that they were too often, the tag titles were too often part of a bigger thing. They were part of the Origin, and then they were part of British Strong Style, but they were like the 3rd most important title in that group.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, yeah. At least they got rid of the shields though. So that's something.
Oh.
That's progress. Or that's progress. Get it?
I see what you did there.
It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. But before we get to the main event here, JYV wins, by the way. I don't know if we mentioned that. Brutal ticket to mayhem, by the way. I knocked Andrews 5 feet in the air.
They're so good. They are amazing. I mean, and they haven't necessarily had a lot to do in AEW, but like they had a match. They had a parking lot brawl with Eddie Kingston and Ortiz on a roof in Vegas.
Yes.
Which is one of the best cinematic wrestling matches.
Feels like this kind of flew under the radar too. It was on the Collision or something. It was like, there's some good stuff here, but
it was on, because it was on the top of a multi-story car park in Vegas, so the background is crazy. It looked amazing.
All you need is some monster trucks, and you got something good. You got some good on your hands.
I remember being so excited when they turned up at Wembley, but it hasn't really materialized so much for them. But you know, I mean, Zach Gibson in particular was a guy. I guess there was also a little bit of surprise that the idea for Gibson was tag team stuff, whether that was his idea because he wanted to team with Drake, because he was a very highly touted guy in the scene at this time, you know, even before WWE UK had been a thing. And obviously he was part of the World of Sport reboot at this time, which was the rival to the whole point of NXT UK existing. But before NXT UK and before WWE UK was a thing, he was like top of William Regal's shortlist.
Yeah,
he was one of Regal's favorites, and was like, it was only a matter of time before Gibson was going to the Fed. Never really got a singles run in Progress. Never really as a top guy, and I think now here with GYV ends up in the tag team for the rest of time in Progress. But I'd had main event matches. You know, wrestled Haskins after Brixton. Had a good run in the Strong Style that year. Previous year in 2016, but never really got that singles run that I think people expected, and Zach Gibson never really got a chance to be a star on the British Indies.
Yeah, he always felt like he was on the cusp, like he was right there, almost like a gatekeeper of sorts in a lot of ways, towards the top of the card, but not the very, very top.
I think he also suffered from not having a hot home promotion. Because, like, if he was Scottish and he was an ICW, he'd been ICW champion 6 times. But he wasn't. So places where he was doing singles work were less high profile.
There's not a lot of Scouse indies.
I don't know if there is. I don't know if there were that many in Liverpool. There were certainly shows in Manchester. You know, Future Shock, NGW in Hull that way. He was definitely a big part of that. But those were more family shows, less of the sort of cool, hip, alternative 2010s indies where your Pete Dunnes and your Travis Bankses and your Jimmy Havoc's were big single stars. Gibbs never really got that opportunity.
Yeah, and maybe I don't know. Maybe it's interesting that he's found a similar trajectory in WWE too. Like he won the tournament the second time, and then just ended up being in JYV again. Maybe it was just a matter of them thinking he has more value in a tag team than a singles. But I mean, JYV is a good tag team, so I can't totally discredit that. But
a great tag team, and they go on to have some incredible matches in Progress in this tag team. I say, I think a big upgrade from Gibson, for certainly a step up from where he was in the remnants of the Origin, as it were.
Yeah, he never felt like he fit in the Origin. He always felt like the fourth guy off to the side, but don't know. But well, after that, we got something special here. We got Doug Williams returning to Progress. It's been 3 years. I think you said on the show the last time he was there was chapter 15. Right. And Doug Williams taking on Timothy Thatcher. Ooh, daddy.
I don't remember where he wrestled. I remember he wrestled in the ballroom, in the garage a couple of times.
Yes.
Because he was in the main event of the show where Jimmy attacked Jim Smallman, which had no commentary. I remember.
Oh, was he? He wrestled Rampage at some point, I think, for the title when Rampage was champion.
Yes, that was that. That was that show, Chapter 9.
Okay.
Was he? Oh yeah, he was Martin Kirby's replacement for Chris Travis. That's right. I remember that show.
Was
That's the
that
show where
an Endeavor
Will
show?
moonsaults off the balcony.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. That feels like a lifetime ago. Jeez.
Yeah. Was.
Especially for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I always loved Tim Thatcher. Nothing is more hilarious to me, by the way, than the fact that Tim Thatcher is now an on-screen non-wrestling character in the WWE.
A mouthpiece.
Because his voice has never matched his style.
Everyone
he's a laid-back
British.
Californian guy. He was always backstage. He was always reading a book backstage. A great guy. Loved Tim Thatcher. Called everyone sir. One of those people. Just
okay.
A great guy to work with. A great guy to be around. But had the most insane, hard-hitting wrestling matches. And had some of my all-time favorite Progress matches. This was fine. It was kind of just a bit there on the show. I do remember because I used to ask John. I'd message John and ask him what the lineup was the week before, generally, if their stuff hadn't been announced, because I was working my prep. And I'm sure he just said like Thatcher versus Williams. And I was like, oh, is it Kenny Williams, the Scottish wrestler? And he was like, no, it's Doug. Oh, had not even considered that.
I mean, he's looking jizzacked here. He's looking beefy. I mean, he's looking good. Looking good, Doug Williams is.
Doug Williams, I think, he's retired several times, as a lot of wrestlers have. I don't know if he was retired at this point or winding down, but I think I'd kind of seen where things were going and that the indies were really hot and maybe fancied another run. And he does get like a year or so as a featured player in Progress.
Right. Yeah, he's wrestled as recently as 2023, but it looks like he might be retired at this point. But yeah, it was like the perfect penultimate match. It was a great thing to lead you into the main event. It's just no bullshit. Just let's grapple. Let's target some limbs. Not a lot of outside stuff. No dives. Let's just get in there and just tussle in the ring. And Thatcher spends a lot of the match targeting the left arm, which comes into play when Doug goes for a top rope dive. Tim gets out of the way, pounces on that arm, Fujiwara arm bar for the quick tap out, and Tim Thatcher gets the win, which makes a lot of sense as he's going into the Triple Threat Atlas title match at Ali Pally. So, this was delightful. It was nice. It was fine, but nothing too crazy, I think.
Yeah, again, just to get Tim on the show against another big guy. He's got that match at Ali Pally, which I love, that 3-way. He'd won the shot in New York, right? Stokely Hathaway's one AEW appearance.
By the way, Stokely Hathaway in a suit in a very hot building. I mean, that head was just glistening. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Fun fact: Stokely. I when I was on my honeymoon, in New York, Stokely Hathaway messaged me saying, "How long are you in New York?" And I replied, and then never heard back.
What?
That's my Stokely Hathaway story.
So you guys are tight, is what you're saying?
Yeah, we're great friends. Yeah,
you guys are buddies. That's good to hear. It's good to hear.
I love Stokely, man. I think he's incredible. And I was always pushing for him to be brought over because I think he did add something. I understand that flying over a manager is a very 1PW thing to do. It's tough. It's tough, Luke.
They could do it like through Zoom, though. Imagine a wrestler comes out and his manager is like on a little like iPad or something. Like that's a thought. Yeah. Somebody take that and run with it.
I know, like Veda Scott was calling North Wrestling in Newcastle from home. So these things are possible these days. But yeah, I always thought Stokely was super talented, and it was a big pop for me to see him on that New York show cutting a promo. And this weird, but it did lead to this, like, because it was a part of a WWN show, and Tim was the big heel on WWN at the time. He was like being this kind of asshole in the New York show, and then he comes back and he's like, "Oh, it's just me, Tim Thatcher. Everyone likes me because I wrestle good.
I got my boots and my tights. I'm just here to do some headlocks. I'm Tim Thatcher." And
forever love Tim Thatcher.
But yeah, he's the best. But it's time to talk about why you're here.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't have any notes on the main event itself, obviously, because I was icing my balls.
Well, I think we should maybe revisit it in case you are not familiar.
Oh, don't worry,
I'm a
I'm
refresher.
very familiar with it.
So I almost want like a play-by-play here. So we got this video up here. So by the way, the main event, of course, as we set up earlier, is Jimmy Havoc and Mark Haskins versus the team of Pete Dunne and Travis Banks.
But really, the main event takes place right now.
Really, yeah. I mean, it does, because Pete doesn't want any part of this wrestling business. So he wants to be commentator. And I guess maybe they only have so many headsets. So he has to take somebody's headset.
We did only have 3 headsets. That's a shoot, brother.
Well, you gonna share a headset? You can't do that. So he's got to take a headset. And what better of a target than this gentleman right here on the end? This Ginge Scotland,
this
boy.
Fat, bald idiot.
I mean, you're being polite here, right? He takes off your headset.
And I'm like, I'll get up. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, setting the record straight, right? When he gets on commentary and says, I asked him nicely, he absolutely did not ask me to move. If he had,
perhaps maybe you should have left quicker.
I obviously would have done it. But
it's a curtain behind you. Just run backwards through the curtain.
Yeah, like Matt did when this happened the second time. Yeah. Coward.
All right. So we got, you get up. Okay, he rips you up. So not as nice at this point.
Great
we can probably say,
view
right?
of my bald spot. This was before I had truly given in and started shaving my head. So this is a dark hair time.
I assumed it was a yarmulke, but I guess not.
No.
These are the scoops that you bring.
It's a dark hair time. The top is there's so little on top and it's clinging on for dear life. Anyways. Yeah, so Pete grabs me and brings me over here. This in my head is a lot slower. It took way more time in my and I don't.
Yeah, you didn't really build to the low blow.
He gives me more direction the second time we did it at Christmas.
Oh, he kicks you in the balls again.
Yeah. He kicks me in the balls again at the end of the unboxing show this year as a babyface pop to send the crowd home happy. After doing it here,
because you're the top heel in the program at that point. So,
yeah. So interval. I'm hanging around outside. Jack Hill comes up to me. Jack's one of the camera guys, now runs Progress, I believe, and says, yeah, so Pete's got this idea for the main event. He wants to kick you in the balls. I was like, very funny, Jack. Fuck you. Leave me alone. So I go through the dressing room and Pete and Trent are sitting there and Pete's like, yes, I'm going to kick you in the balls in the main event. And obviously I'm shitting myself at this point because I've never done anything on the show.
Right.
I've never been involved and I've never wanted to be. It was never something I asked for or tried to make happen. But they wanted to do it. I'm fully aware it was a rib. Let's not be, it was for their own amusement more than anything else. And I'm fine with that. I'll take my ribbing.
You're very kickable.
I'll take it like a man. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm there to do what needs to be done. I do have a really awkward conversation with Trent Seven where I'm like, you do have to show me how to do this. Because I've never even looked at a wrestling training school. I have no experience.
But you've been kicked in the balls before, no?
Yeah, but there's a difference between because again, that is not how we plan. How it went down is not how we planned it. My reaction is not what we planned. Because the reason why it was a kick in the balls is because I then don't have to take a bump. I could just do buckle forward and then go down onto my knees.
Right.
For some reason, in the moment, I threw myself to the ground.
Was it stiff? Like the kick? Come on, easy. Was the kick stiff?
I mean, look, I obviously kayfabe, brother, but because I feel like I always wanted to say this because it makes clear that Pete Dunne's one of the best in the world. I didn't feel it. I didn't feel anything.
Okay. It's a good sell, though. Great sell, I will say.
Thanks. All but one person agreed. And he got cancelled, so it's fine.
Okay, so fuck him.
Yeah, so fuck them. So yeah, so they were. I can't remember who else I talked to. I remember I was genuinely like really nervous about this because what if like my body just didn't react? What if I just shut down and no sold it?
You sting it like, I have no balls.
I don't. Yeah, I'd never done anything on the show. It was obviously it's live. It's you only get one go at it. I was just happy it came off as vaguely planned. I think everyone got a good laugh out of it, which is fair enough.
It's fantastic.
But yeah, it was. I didn't believe it at first, and then they sort of went through the idea.
One issue I have though. Our good friend Ross, RJ Singh, he's there. He's watching this. Doesn't fucking do anything.
He comes over. He comes over.
He's a British wrestling champion. He's a legend in the scene. He just said, "Hey, what are you doing, Pete? Gotta give him a slap or something, RJ. Come on." He just
got
goes
the clip
over
of me
there
being carried out as well.
Was he ice your balls for you? What is RJ doing?
Yeah, I don't. This is the thing. I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to be selling here because it's not like I'm knocked out.
Yeah,
my balls hurt, so I'm just sat here being like, gurning, as you'd call it in Scotland.
Did you ever consider maybe yelling, "My balls"?
No, because again, I didn't want to. I was very clear that in doing it, I didn't want to be seen as like trying to get myself over. So I was like, I'm going to do exactly what they've asked. I'm going to do it perfectly. And I'm not going to try and get anything else in. I'm not going to try and add anything to the moment because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a civilian. Sure. So trust the people who put the show together. Trust the people who are involved. And to be clear, I did trust Pete Dunne completely. There are a few wrestlers I would trust more than Pete Dunne in this sort of situation. But yeah, it got a big pop, and then it did get some heat. It did then get used as part of the babyface turn, and we did it again. I can come back and we'll talk about it. The second time was not planned. Pete wrestled in the main event of unboxing, and he's walking up the stage, and me and Matt are just sat there, and he looks at me and he goes, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe he's going to tease it because he's a baby face now. He'll tease it and then not do it, and then he'll go, no, he was going to do it again. So that time again, I threw myself to the ground for some reason, and that time I actually legitimately injured myself.
Really? How'd you injure yourself there?
When I threw myself down somehow, I landed, my elbow went into my ribs, and I thought I cracked a rib, but it was only bruised. But it genuinely hurt a lot. And that was the part where I was like, okay, we're never doing that again. I've done it twice.
And that's why you don't commentate for them anymore. He scared you away because it was going to be a running bit at that point. You just get kicked in the balls every chapter. No,
I mean, I once I actually got hurt doing it, I was like, look, I'm not doing that again. I'm not taking bumps anymore.
Right.
I do remember Glenn taking his first bump when Marty put him in the chicken wing, but he was sensible enough to take that onto a sofa. If only it'd been a sofa on stage for me to fall onto. But
if only.
Yeah, I do think Pete, certainly the second time, but I don't know about this time, I think he was quite surprised when I threw myself to the ground and does genuinely laugh. As I say, that wasn't the whole point. Was you don't have to take any kind of bump. You can just double over and then sort of crumple to the ground.
Right. And crawl to the back, maybe. Just get
and
out
that
of there.
Was what was in my mind. But then he kicks me and I'm on the floor.
It was pretty quick too. So I don't know if you're expecting more of like a "here it comes" kind of thing.
No, I think it definitely felt slower in the moment. Like watching it back, I'm like, wow, I do not remember it being that quick. I remember it feeling a lot slower. I do remember Pete getting some people asking on Twitter afterwards why he slapped the leg when I was wearing jeans. And the answer is because it's not fucking real.
That's how hard he kicked you, though. It went through the denim.
Exactly. Denim was not protecting me.
Damn. Hate to hear
So yeah,
it.
that's the story of how I got kicked in the balls, and I think I hope it amused people. I certainly think it amused Pete and Trent. Yeah,
it amused me. And you took it. You took it like a champ.
I took it standing up,
I guess,
and then
until you fell
on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second time is worse. The second time is pretty brutal. Because it's a baby face pop as well. I was like, come on. This feels mean.
Fuck this guy. Get this nerd out of here.
I do think it was. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to ask people who were there at the time, but like, I do think it was quite shocking because I don't think anyone had ever expected that I would be involved in anything physical.
Yeah.
So maybe it wasn't entirely a rib. Maybe there was some thought to it that, Pete's so crazy, he'll even attack the fat bald guy. The guy who clearly doesn't have any athleticism. It's one thing attacking a retired wrestler who's a commentator. How about a guy who retired from athleticism before he was even born?
Right. It caught me off guard because I remember you telling me about this a while ago, but I didn't remember the chapters. When I was watching this, I was like, oh shit, this is the show where it happens. Oh man.
And I'm proud of it. Honestly, I am proud of it. It's something I still show it to people all the time, particularly in professional settings. I like showing that to work colleagues. It's in some ways like my biggest moment in wrestling. I like to think, I guess what I consider my biggest moment was commentating at Wembley, but in terms of being a character in Progress, it was one of the biggest things I ever did. So yeah, I'm proud of it. I was happy to do it. I don't think I can put across how much I was shitting myself that I was going to ruin the show.
Yeah.
Like really, really terrified. Because this is the main event as well.
Yeah, you were involved in the main event angle. Yeah.
On the show, I'm in an angle in the main event, and I am trusted with doing something.
Leading into the biggest show Progress has done with the main event programs.
With the champion, one of the biggest independent wrestlers, well, whether he was independent at this point, I suppose you can argue, but one of the biggest names in wrestling at the time, a WWE champion, wants to use me in an angle, and I was really terrified of fucking it up. Really, really worried. I can't remember who I spoke to, but there were various people backstage that I spoke to and was like, I'm really nervous. I really don't want to fuck this up. I think one of them might have been TK, because TK was at that show on a sofa with his leg in a massive cast and just sat there the whole time.
Right.
But yeah, I spoke to various people and was like, any advice? I don't really know what I need. I just know that there is a chance that I could fuck up the whole show here. And in the end, I didn't. My body didn't do what I wanted it to do.
That's how it goes sometimes when you get kicked in the balls.
It was so debilitating. I collapsed immediately. That's what it was.
It came off great. It was the perfect way to kind of set it up. How Pete is just this bully. He picks the weakest, feeblest, nerdiest ginger he can find, the baldest guy in the entire building, finds him, kicks him in the dick and balls, and takes his headset and takes his spot on commentary while he's technically in the match also, which I thought was a fun little layer to it. Which
I don't know if we're applying the rules of wrestling really strictly, is there a disqualification involved in kicking a commentator in the balls? I don't know.
I think that's always fair game. I think you can always kick a commentator in the balls. I can't remember another instance where I've seen it, but I think it's always on the table if you so choose.
Interesting.
Call in wrestlers if you know, if I'm wrong there, but this essentially leads to another handicap match with Travis Banks, this time taking on the team of Jimmy Havoc and Mark Haskins by himself because his partner Pete Dunne is on commentary. It's a fine match. I mean, the general story is that Havoc and Haskins, they're working together in the beginning. there's a few miscommunication spots during it, and the kind of aggression slowly builds throughout the match to where they like really can't get along, but they kind of have to because Travis is fucking them both up, so they're kind of forced to team. So they're coexisting begrudgingly, and Pete is just watching his partner at a 1-on-2 disadvantage in the finish. So I like the finish in theory. I don't like how it was executed because Pete's on commentary.
You like it in Austin Theory?
I don't like Austin Theory. So Pete's on commentary. Travis, he's laying both Jimmy Havoc and Mark Haskins out. He hits slice of heaven to one guy. He hits the Kiwi Crusher to, I think, Haskins. So both guys are laid out. Travis is about to win, but then Pete Dunne storms the ring, tosses his partner out of the ring, picks the bones, bitter end to Mark Haskins, and gets the win for his team. So Pete gets the wins based off of Travis's work. However, there was no tag. He was not the legal man. None of this. I heard none of this. I saw none of this. There was no ropes grabbed. We got to go back to the scorebook and change this because this is. I don't approve of this.
And of course, if I was on commentary, I would have pointed that out. But unfortunately, I was incapacitated.
That's why he took you out specifically, because he knew you'd call it out.
Exactly. No, it's fun. I've been watching a lot of. I'm sure me and my wife were watching all of AEW from the beginning. We're in 2021, and there is a lot of elite multi-man matches with Jim Ross shouting about tags on commentary.
Who the hell's the legal man?
There's one where the finish is like a 4-way BT trick, and it's like, okay, well, there's 4 guys in the ring now. What are we doing?
Jim Ross existing in AEW just to call them out on their bullshit. It was like, what a time.
Yeah.
What a time.
But yeah, no tag. Interesting. I don't know if I didn't really pay attention to the match at the time. I think I was just like trying to breathe about what had happened, and
RJ's massaging your scrotum.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like I say, the nerves were pretty high, but then it's, I guess, hard to. As part of that, the adrenaline was pretty crazy, and the adrenaline dump after it was pretty crazy. So yeah, I was a bit out of it for this main event.
I mean, yeah, the sold out electric ballroom is quite the opportunity to make your debut when taking bumps. But no, I thought this whole package, so to speak, was pretty good. Outside of the logic gap of the no tag, I thought, Pete taking advantage of Travis Banks's all of his handiwork and getting the glory. And then, the aftermath of the match where, the entirety of British Strong Style and CCK are all out there. But ultimately, British Strong Style ends up on top because Pete Dunne has his old sledgehammer that he got from Papa H. And they lay out all of CCK. And the last image you see on this show, after Trent and Tyler hold up Travis Banks in the middle of the ring, Pete bashes him with a sledgehammer in the back of the head, which is what they were about to do before TK Cooper returned. So they pretty much recreated that scenario, but now there's no TK Cooper, so they were able to do it. And I feel like BSS comes out looking pretty strong from this show, where I feel like a lot of times they're almost more comedy, like kind of tongue-in-cheek entertainment rather than big bad heels. But I feel like they felt like pretty credible forces in terms of being like the top heels in the company. So I ultimately did like how this show ended, I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think we ended the show with the right picture, which was we've got this group of the tag champions and the world champion are a group, and they're this huge bullying, dominating force. And can our plucky underdogs finally rid the world of this evil at the big show?
Right. And it's a good segue into a chapter 55, Alexandra Palace, which is up next. So weird show, weirdly booked show, weird month, really. Everything involved all of the logistical stuff and the injuries and the last minute shuffling and the low blows to commentators. A weird month, but leads us into a pretty big show for Progress. Any other nuggets? Any other thoughts on the show we covered here today, Callum?
No, I mean, honestly, this is like the first time I've ever kind of thought about or spoken in detail about that moment. And obviously, it's a tiny moment in the history of Progress, and most fans don't care about it, which is fine. But it's a big moment for me. And there are some guys who there are some people, both fans and wrestlers, who were not particularly kind to me through my time in wrestling, and thought, maybe a fan shouldn't be working backstage like that. Some people were jealous of the opportunities that I had from a fan perspective. But I do take some credit in that some of those people had come and gone by this point, and I was there. I had a nearly 4-year career in Progress. This moment working with Pete Dunne, Wembley, working overseas in Germany. So I like to. This is kind of one of the crowning achievements of my wrestling career. So it's good to reflect on that. And
it's more than a lot of people can say. Not a lot of people could say they were kicked in the balls by a champion in WWE. So
yeah, and that's and that's what that shelf is about, right? All the very strong. Trent never got a figure, but Tyler and Pete are obviously on that shelf, and Tommy End's up on there, and War Machine and Walter and all these guys. It was an incredible moment in time to be a part of, and I think that goes to what we were talking about with the Strangler Davis of it all. Is there was just so much talent from everywhere that it became really clear really quickly if you weren't up to par, and
right.
The fans were quite harsh with that. The fans would be very clear of like, this is not up to standard. We expect AEW pay-per-views every time we come to the ballroom.
Yeah.
So it was an incredible time. Obviously, the fact that they were doing this many shows was incredible as well. 3 shows in 2 weeks, in 3 different cities and 2 continents. Pretty mad. When they started out 3 months between shows, and then 2, and then they did one every month.
Started in a garage.
In the garage, yes.
Garage. Yeah. And now we're here.
So yeah, I'm proud of this moment. I'm proud of if it even a tiny bit helped put across the story they were trying to tell, then I did my job. And that was all. I always wanted to help tell the stories and help make the stories make sense as much as possible. And yeah, if it was all just a rib, which it mostly was, I'm almost certain, that's fine.
Worked out for you.
Well,
worked out for you.
Not the second time. Not for my ribs the second time.
It was quite the rib then, yeah, for real. You really had a
that was
Rick Rude
a rib
exit.
on myself, because I again threw myself to the floor for no reason.
I mean, people think of 2 things. They think of Sting landing on Rick Rude and him breaking his back, and then they think of you getting annihilated by Pete and breaking your own ribs with your elbow. So kind of 2 things that are always like, it's like 1A and 1B. So
yeah. It's still, I mean, it's a moment people occasionally ask me about. It's this thing that I show to people. Yeah, between that and the Wembley picture are like the 2 things where I'm like, I actually did something in this period.
Pretty big deal.
It was a thing. And yeah, it was great to be around and great to be a part of, and it was an honor. It really was, and a privilege.
Well, it's been an honor and a privilege having you on once again, Callum. Thank you once again, making the time to check out the show. Come on and talk about it. Where can everybody find you or ignore you? Or where should everybody go to not find you?
They should go... Well, actually, do you know where they should go? They should go to prowrestling.fandom.com, which is the wiki that I was looking at the results of this on. Because if you click on my name on those chapter shows, there's this illuminating article. Callum Leslie is a commentator. With a picture of a different guy with the same name.
But also a commentator?
No, but he is a I think this might be why it gets confused. He's a broadcast journalist on BBC Radio, far more successful in journalism and broadcasting than I ever was. But we did go to university at the same time and wrote for rival student papers. So I regularly would get confused with him, and it really amused me today that I opened this and he pops up.
So everybody should go there, check it out.
With Callum and 1L. Yeah, listen to Radio 1 and listen to the good Callum Leslie. Other than that, leave me alone.
I mean, they can just stick around and wait till you make your AAA debut to get your revenge on Bravo or Rayu or wherever he is now. I'm waiting for it. Triple Mania. You're going to storm the ring, kick him in the balls. I'm waiting for it.
Well, keep waiting.
Once again, thank you to Callum for joining the program today. Always a fun old time with my boy CL. Go check out Callum. Actually, don't go check him out. Leave him alone. Leave his balls alone, for the love of God. Well, anyways, I think that's about all I got for you guys today. It was kind of a marathon show today, but I had fun. Did you have fun? Did you get there? Tough luck. Maybe next time. No, appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, I'm not totally sure when this episode is going to be dropping. The hardest part of the ring and the softest part of the ring are going to be traveling for the next few weeks. So we'll be offline for a bit. Not offline, but just let's see. We're gonna do this logistical research right here on the pod. Let's see here. So recording here. So I think I'm gonna drop this the week after WrestleMania. So not the 22nd, but the 29th. We'll see how that goes. And then I'll be back here. So it might just be that 1 week where we'll be off, but make sure you follow me on all the social medias to stay updated here. And yeah, next episode, I believe. Yeah. So and next time I see you here, we're going to be doing the hardest promotion of 1997 finale, baby. WWF versus WCW versus ECW. Could be a live stream situation. Again, follow me on all the social medias to stay tuned for that. I'll be putting out some polls and stuff, some opportunities for you guys to get involved as well. So again, follow, subscribe, poke me, slap me, spit in my mouth. Do all of those things. And most importantly, you have a lovely rest of your day. I'll bid you adieu. Appreciate you. Mwah. I'm hard.
Yeah. And the hardest, talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. It's the hardest, talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started.